a crew in town. The head hillbillies are making their rounds. Small town whispers loud and clear. The sheriff shot the judge in his chambers chair.
Sheriff got a secret he won't keep. Judge shot dead in his disbelief. A lot of people have some stories to tell. Dog passed away, get the sound of a shotgun shell.
All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be bound.
Neighbors hide behind their blinds. Whisper tales of troubled minds. Skeletons covering the mountainside. A treacherous reality in the pines.
Winter reveals the hidden lies. Moonlight couldn't mask the cries. Shadows caught in sunlit skies. There's no cover, no disguise. All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be
Winter reveals the hidden lie. Moonlight could mask their cries. Shadows caught in sunlit skies. There's no cover, no disguise.
All the secrets spill on down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be bound.
Hello. Hello, hello, hello. How are you this evening, everybody? Welcome, welcome to the channel. Welcome, welcome to the show. StreamYard has got some new stuff kicking off with like vertical and landscape things. So tonight is like the first time that we're able to see our vertical, like on, I guess it would be on your phone. So that's really, really exciting and pretty cool. I'm not. Really exciting. Turn it down. Turn it down. Turn it down. Cindy Lou Hoot. Look there. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Member for 3 months. Thank you guys. Thank you. So tonight on Hillbilly Crime, my name is Elizabeth. For anybody who's new, if you have not subscribed, please hit that subscribe button. We're kind of behind this month on a lot of stuff, but that's okay. You know, you're going to have ebbs and flows. Not every day is going to be, you know, a great day. We're not always going to be on the mountaintop. Oftentimes we're going to be down in the valley or coming up out of that valley. So just keep plugging along. I heard a long time ago, 85% of success is just showing up. As long as you show up every day, you know, this too shall pass, even on the slow days, even on the bad days. Let's see. Okay. So tonight on Hillbilly Crime, we're going to be looking at two men, 2 years. One of them locked up years after the state learned he was innocent. How often do you think that happens? I think it happens a whole lot more than what we want to admit. The other fighting for his freedom while the same office kept his conviction alive. Their opponent? Well, it's none other than the South Carolina Attorney General's office. We're going into the courthouse doors, beyond the headlines, into appeals court filings and video evidence to ask, when the state already knows you're innocent, how do you stay behind bars? And when they fight to keep you locked up anyway, what hope do you have? These aren't just stories of mistakes. They're stories of system failure and of men who refuse to quit. This is your front row seat to objection. Wrongfully convicted men fight the AG. So we are going to watch this story, and the guy's name is Jody Barr. He's an independent journalist, an investigative journalist, I should say. And man, I just love watching his stuff. He has some really, really great investigations that he does. Now, I think he's down, this is in South Carolina, but let's watch.
By the time help arrived, 67-year-old Edward Slick Gibbons' wallet, shoes, and broken glasses were scattered across his garage floor. He was crawling through his own blood, trying to get help. As the three criminals who hid inside his garage and ambushed him jumped inside his truck and took off. Clarendon County Sheriff's investigators collected more than a dozen pieces of evidence, documented bloody shoe prints, clipped blood-soaked clothes, swabbed for DNA, and dusted for fingerprints. And a short time later, someone found Slick's stolen El Camino abandoned a few miles from his home. A man working for the Gibbons took the car to Slick's parts store, where investigators later taped it off and dusted it for fingerprints. Slick Gibbons, beaten and bloody, survived the attack. Investigators showed up to the hospital to take this black piece of duct tape off his head and logged it into evidence. Slick Gibbons was a motorsports legend in South Carolina. Winning more than 250 dirt races will do that, and it earned him a spot in the Clarendon County Athletic Hall of Fame. He was also a businessman. Some thought he walked around with enough cash to make this all worth it. Slick told investigators 3 masked men were hiding in his garage and jumped him. One sat on his chest and beat him in the face. Another held his legs. The 3 kicked and stomped him, and they cleaned out his pockets. Clarendon County Sheriff's investigators went to work to figure out who did this. Days after the attack, Sheriff's investigator Kenneth Clark claimed he got a tip from a confidential informant reporting 3 people spending a lot of money right after the robbery. Those 3 men became the prime suspects in the Gibbons ambush. One of those men, Michael Wilson Pearson. Clarendon County investigators took Pearson's fingerprints along with the 2 other men the CI claimed were on a spending spree. The county got nearby Sumter Police Department to run the prints through the nationwide automated fingerprint identification system known as AFIS to see whether any of the 3 men matched any of the prints from the crime scene. The computer database returned negative results, meaning none of the men's prints matched anything in the database. That's until Sumter Police's APHIS expert, Marie Hodge, visually compared the men's prints to the crime scene prints. She determined a single thumbprint on the back of the El Camino belonged to Michael Pearson, but she could not determine when, where, or how the print got onto Slick's car. A few hours later, sheriff's investigators arrested Michael Pearson, charging him with the robbery, kidnapping, and beating of Slick Gibbons. The sheriff's office had no other suspects. 2 months later, the SLED lab processed a DNA swab from the duct tape wrapped around Gibbons' head. The DNA matched a man named Victor Weldon. Investigators charged him and accused him and Pearson of being co-conspirators. The county grand jury indicted Pearson and Weldon on charges of felony burglary, armed robbery, kidnapping, grand larceny, and possession of a weapon during a violent crime.
This is the state of South Carolina versus Michael Wilson Pearson.
Both men stood trial in Clarendon County in May of 2012. Third Circuit Solicitor Chip Finney tried Pearson and Weldon together. It took the Clarendon County jury just 20 minutes to find them both guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced Michael Pearson and Victor Weldon to 60 years in prison, essentially a death sentence. Pearson would have been 97 and Weldon 83 years old before they'd ever see daylight again. Both men asked the state's appeals court to overturn their convictions. In 2014, the Court of Appeals overturned Pearson's conviction, finding the fingerprint evidence merely raised a suspicion of Pearson's guilt, and that caused the jury to speculate about his involvement in the ambush. The court also found investigators had no other evidence placing Pearson at the crime scene, or proof he even knew his co-defendant, Victor Weldon, at the time. The appeals court ordered a new trial for Michael Pearson.
Serving as your Attorney General has been a great honor.
But Attorney General Alan Wilson stepped in and asked the state Supreme Court to undo the appeals court decision giving Pearson a new trial. The AG wanted to keep him imprisoned. The AG argued the appeals court misunderstood case law it applied in Pearson's case, and the prosecution against Michael Pearson did not present a complete failure of evidence of his guilt. Instead, the case proved circumstantial evidence of guilt, that Michael Pearson was there and participated. The Supreme Court sided with the AG's office, canceled his new trial, and reinstated Pearson's conviction and that 60-year prison sentence. Victor Weldon also appealed his convictions. Despite the DNA evidence against him, he argued his own attorney failed to call alibi witnesses. Weldon argued those witnesses, his own mother and sister, would have told the jury he was at home when Slick Gibbons was ambushed, robbed, and attacked. In 2021, the appeals court overturned his convictions and ordered a new trial. The Attorney General asked the state Supreme Court to review the appeals court decision, but the High Court denied the AG's request, and Solicitor Chip Finney and Victor Weldon prepared to face off again before a Clarendon County jury.
So I just wanted to, I know this is kind of like, but this is all the foundational information that he's kind of getting out there that we now can understand the story. Okay. So I know it was kind of a lot of words, but it's important to understand the process of how the court system works and how, like if you get convicted of a crime, especially if you're innocent and you didn't, you're not guilty, this is the process that you usually have to go through fighting to prove your innocence. And a lot of times once they've got you in there, even when they know, if they find out that you are actually innocent, they will fight to keep you in there. They're not fighting to let you out.
Hey, Victor. How you doing?
Mark.
He's right here.
In March 2023, instead of putting Victor Weldon on trial a second time, Solicitor Chip Finney decided to offer him a plea deal.
Vic, I'm Mark Creech.
All right.
Doing okay?
Mm-hmm. All right.
No.
I work as an investigator with the solicitor's office. I retired from SLED, had over 30 years in the system, and came here a couple of years ago part-time. You know Kenny Clark, he's captain of investigations.
The deal? If Weldon told everything he knew about what happened to Slick Gibbons 13 years earlier and everyone who took part in it, Finney would cut 45 years off his sentence and set him free.
And you know why we're here? Yeah. Okay. Your lawyer's here with you. He's explained everything to you. So we're just gonna let you talk.
All right, see where I start off at.
I'm not trying to tell you what to say, but start off when you first, whoever talked to you or whatever, or how you became aware, whatever.
Just to make you feel, I'll just say this for the camera.
Yes.
We signed this plea agreement. I've gone over it with Victor. He understands that we agreed on a plea, and he agreed this statement if the plea fell apart, couldn't be used against him.
Correct.
And so you want to give your full account of what happened. So that's the context we're here.
Right.
Victor Weldon was about to deliver a confession and provide evidence that the Clarendon County Sheriff's Office and Solicitor Chip Finney convicted an innocent man.
Did you know for 2 years?
Thank you for the question. I'm not going to answer any
When
questions
did you know of
at this
Mr.
time.
Pearson's
Thank you so
innocence?
much. Appreciate it.
Why won't you answer that question?
What do you think the state of South Carolina should do with Solicitor Chip Finney?
I think he should be disbarred. I think he should not be allowed to practice law in the state of South Carolina or anywhere else.
That's egos. That when people can't admit that they've made a mistake, or you saw how he stood there, he was like, "Thank you. I'm not going to answer that question." And he just kept eyeballing him. That's ego. That's arrogance. They're used to having so much power and not ever being challenged. And if they, even if they do, when they do find out that they've made a mistake, the system is not perfect. It makes mistakes all the time. You would think that prosecutors and judges would be more inclined to listen when something's happened like this.
Hey, Victor. How you doing?
All right.
Sit right here. Got water.
It took 3 interviews for the solicitor's office to get the full confession out of Victor Weldon, his version of the truth about what really happened at Slick Gibbons' home in May of 2010.
Dude named Leonard Smith, he came.
Who?
Leonard.
Lennar?
Leonard.
Spell that for me.
Lenard. I don't know. I think that's how to spell it.
Leonard Smith?
Yeah.
So he got a nickname or anything?
Not I know of.
The name seemed to come as a surprise to solicitor investigator Mark Creech. Just 2.5 minutes into the interview, Victor Weldon dropped a name investigators never had on their suspect bingo card.
When did he come to your house?
In the morning.
The morning does his crime? Mm-hmm. So you had no idea about nothing until this boy knocked on your window?
No, they came to my house. It was Leonard. He came knocking at my house.
Weldon went on, claiming a man called Peanut drove him, Leonard Smith, and a man named Kevin Millette to Slick's home.
Then he knocked on the back door. He cracked it and opened it and screamed my name, so I got up. He said he wanted to hit a lick because his brother was in jail.
3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. His brother's in jail. He wants to hit a lick, which means he wants to go rob somebody. Is that what hit a lick means? You go outside with him and sit in his car. And who else is in there?
Kevin Millette. It's somebody else, but I don't know. I don't know him.
He told investigators Peanut dropped the 3 off at Slick's home. They slipped into his open garage and hid in a storage room.
I was just sitting there about 5 minutes and he came out.
Come out Slick.
Yeah.
Come out that back door.
When we ran out, I was like second one behind somebody. I don't know who I was behind, but we ran out. That might have been Kevin first, but what was they threw him on the ground, sat on his legs and checked his pocket, told him stop moving, stop screaming.
Okay. Where were you at during this time?
I was with him right there.
Were you sitting on him too?
No.
What were you doing?
I went in his pockets.
You were going through his pockets. Then what happened?
They tried to put tape on Leonard, tried to put tape on.
Where'd the tape come from?
I don't know.
By the time they finished with Slick, the 67-year-old was covered in blood, his glasses smashed, and he couldn't walk. Slick told investigators the 3 ran out of his garage. He crawled up to look out of a window to see what they drove off in, and one of them jumped out of the back of the truck to finish him off. The final strike knocked him out, and the attack was over.
And they were like, yo, where's the rest of it? They took the shoes off looking for it, and that was less than 2 minutes, and we left in his other room.
After more than 13 years of lying and proclaiming his innocence, Victor Weldon wanted his freedom. If he snitched, Third Circuit Solicitor Chip Finney's plea deal would erase the final 47 years of Weldon's prison sentence.
Amen. There you go. All right. You doing all right?
In March 2023, investigators called Victor Weldon in for a lineup.
You gave us 3 names, and we got 3 photo lineup we want to present to you. When you pick out the person, if the person is there that you know, I need for you to circle it, I need for you to initial it, and date it, okay?
The case file shows Weldon circled Leonard Smith's picture.
So you're sure this is Lenore?
Yeah.
In April 2023, just 1 month later,
Got it ready?
investigators brought him back in for another lineup.
See if you recognize anybody.
Yeah.
Who?
Number 2.
Who is he?
Not like Kevin Millett.
That's Kevin Millett. And is this the same Kevin Millett that you say went with y'all and committed the crime at Slick Gibbons' house? You need to
So these identifications, what he's doing right now is he's naming who was actually with him whenever they robbed this guy. And the other guy that they have in prison with him, who was convicted of this crime, he wasn't guilty. He was completely innocent. And so right now they're trying, they have given this guy a plea deal. So he was one of the 2 that were convicted of it. He's really guilty. But they gave him a plea deal saying, even though he got these 60 years sentence, we're going to knock the rest of it off and we're going to turn you loose right now. But you got to tell us the truth. Well, he's telling the truth, and he's putting on the record that this other guy that they have him convicted with was actually innocent. So now from this moment forward, we're going to see how the prosecutor's office and I guess that would be who is the only people that would be responsible for it would be the prosecutor's office. I don't think it would be anybody else other than them. The Attorney General's office, ain't it? The Attorney General's office is the one that they are trying to keep this man in prison.
Circle and date it and initial it, please.
3 months later, Solicitor Chip Finney and Victor Weldon were in a courtroom. Weldon pleaded guilty, erasing his 60-year prison sentence. Victor Weldon is set to be freed on Halloween 2025. Of all the people Weldon named in his confession, one person was unnamed, Michael Wilson Pearson.
And Pearson ain't had nothing to do with this.
Oh, no.
I'm talking about your co-defendant that was tried with you.
I know you don't know. I don't know. Cause
he never had nothing to do with this.
I don't know.
He wasn't with y'all.
No.
Why didn't you tell him that to begin with?
Well, I did. I said I don't know Pearson.
No, there's a difference in I don't know Pearson and Pearson was not there.
Yeah.
So was Pearson there?
No.
Pearson ain't had nothing to do with this. He's an innocent man sitting in jail right now, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell your lawyer back then that Mark Pearson didn't have nothing to do with it?
Me and asked. He asked me, do I know him? I said, no.
Come on now. You didn't ask.
You did.
Out of the goodness of your heart, you did not tell him they got the wrong man.
No.
Because that would have implicated you. Because only you would have known. The only way you'd have known he wasn't there is because you were there.
I know. I didn't want to go to prison.
And you're telling me now he didn't do this.
I don't know how his thumbprint or fingerprint got in the car. I don't know what that's about.
Did you and him ever have a conversation about this case?
After we got the R&E, yeah.
Okay, what tell me about that conversation?
He trying to figure out what the hell was going on.
He was?
Mm-hmm.
What was he saying?
He was like, man, he gonna try to get to the bottom of this and
Prove he's innocent.
that's about it. But,
He ever tell you he didn't do it?
yeah.
Did you ever tell him you did do it?
No.
So you had the ability to set him free 12 or 13 years ago by telling the truth, and you've let this man sit in jail the whole time, knowing he didn't do this.
Yeah.
Why?
I didn't want to go to prison.
How would you feel if the shoe was on the other foot?
I feel bad too.
In July 2023, 3 months after Victor Weldon's confession,
I'll see you at the mic.
Michael Pearson was in an interview room in the Clarendon County Solicitor's office.
If you don't want to talk to me, you don't want to say anything, that is perfectly fine.
Last time I said something, it got me 60 years. But I'm telling him I ain't had nothing to do with it.
Okay, just let me explain it. You don't have to talk to me today if you don't want to, okay? This is the story he tells us. There were several people involved. Other people went into the garage, but you didn't go in the garage.
I wasn't there, period.
Okay. My question to him is, why didn't you tell this to begin with?
He did.
No, he didn't.
He told me he told you that.
He did not.
He did not, Mike.
I even asked him, did you even tell Michael?
I don't know the kid.
So that's where we're at. Now, is he telling the truth? That's what we got to determine.
Yes.
We also got to determine these other individuals that he says went in the garage with him. We got to locate them. We got to charge them. We got to talk to them. We got to get DNA. We got to do all this other stuff. Well, Sheriff's Office does. And try to make a case on them.
Michael Pearson spent the past 15 years of his life in the county jail and 4 different prisons over this. But despite Victor Weldon's confession, it would take another 2.5 years before he'd get his first shot at freedom. Coming up.
I think he should be disbarred. I think he should not be allowed to practice law.
Did you know for
Thank
2
you
years?
for
the question. I'm not going to answer the question. When did you know at this time Pearson's innocence? So much.
What did you really
Thank you
lose
so much.
sitting in the penitentiary?
I lost my life, man.
Man.
In the more than 2
Oh,
years that
wow.
passed following the 2023 confession and Victor Weldon's guilty plea, case records we obtained show no action by the solicitor's office to set Michael Pearson free.
Pearson ain't had nothing to do with this. He's an innocent man sitting in jail right now, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Third Circuit Solicitor Chip Finney had to know of Michael Pearson's innocence at least as early as March 2023. His own investigator heard Victor Weldon not only confess to his role in the Slick Gibbons ambush, but he listed names of the 3 others involved. How you doing, Mr. Pearson?
All right, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
All right.
And the solicitor also knew Michael Pearson wasn't even there.
The man telling you the truth. I ain't had nothing to do with it. I done did 15 years of my life. 13 years of my life. And with that, I didn't know nothing about that. I'm glad he stepped up and tell y'all the truth that I didn't do it, because I don't know his family. I don't know him.
Pearson found out about Weldon's confession in this July 2023 interview with a solicitor's office investigator. He's maintained his innocence from the start. We pulled his case file from the courthouse and found a handwritten letter Pearson wrote the clerk in 2013, a year after his trial and conviction. I ask that you please help an innocent man. I really had nothing to do with this bad situation, and my life is on hold, and the real criminals are still walking the street. And Pearson was right, and both law enforcement and the solicitor knew that in early 2023. Even the polygraphs Pearson and Weldon took supported the stories the men told. Both passed their lie detector tests with no deception indicated. In June 2024, Pearson, without an attorney, filed a second application for post-conviction relief, a move that could allow him a chance at a new trial or undo his convictions. Pearson continued sitting in prison, then saw an ad from the North Carolina Center on Actual Innocence pop up on its prison-issued tablet and asked Director Chris Muma for help. What did you think when you read that application?
Well, you know, it has the standard red flags that we run into, right? There was no defense put on a trial, so that's always concerning.
The center went to work. In June 2025, the center got Victor Weldon to sign an affidavit, again confessing his own guilt and reaffirming Michael Pearson's innocence. What's not in the public record? Evidence the solicitor made any formal move to free Michael Pearson. Not until the North Carolina Center on Actual Innocence stepped in.
Law enforcement knew there was a problem in this case. They already knew. And the solicitor wrote us and said, we're doing an investigation that I might there might be a possibility I could offer your client a reduced sentence. We said, well, we've got evidence of innocence. There's not going to be a reduced sentence if there's evidence of innocence. 60 days went by and we never heard from him again. And we were mystified on how they could have that much evidence of innocence, grant the man the plea, give him the plea deal that gets him out 40 years earlier, and yet not do anything for Michael. It was an egregious delay in justice.
Muma says one man with all the power to free Michael Pearson was at the center of the delay in doing so. That man is elected solicitor Chip Finney.
It never occurred to them he was going to say, listen, you convicted an innocent man. That backfired on them. When it backfired, they went through the steps of trying to prove he was wrong, and they kept getting more and more evidence of innocence. The pushback was, we don't even know whether these facts are true. You're alleging these things. You're alleging that Victor Weldon says these things. But those facts...
You know, one of the things that I said at the beginning was independent investigations with purpose. That was the title for our show tonight. When law enforcement fails and the system fails, is it up to independent journalists then to be the ones to bring the truth forward? You know, and how often nobody wants to hear it. People just do not want to hear it.
Facts came from law enforcement. They were questioning the sheriff department's own investigation, not mine. And, you know, they found his statement to be truthful and gave him that benefit. So it just really mind-boggling to watch how this case unraveled, and they did nothing.
As the Center on Actual Innocence continued building its case to free Pearson, instead of helping formalize Pearson's innocence, Finney offered a deal. I requested that his client consider and agree not to return to Clarendon County upon his release, and that he would also agree to waive any civil damages claims against the victims or law enforcement. Attorneys immediately reported Finney and his offer to the Attorney General's office. Instead of going forward with a July hearing to free Pearson, the solicitor called the sheriff's office lead investigator, Captain Kenneth Clark.
Hey, Kenny Clark, this is Chip Finney. I think that hearing is going to be canceled. The lawyer and I are having difficulties with each other because I asked for those 2 requests about not suing us and not moving back to Clarendon, and he thinks that's illegal on my part. So I think we're going to cancel that hearing and let them fight it out in court at some other time.
Although he pitches it as a request to the Attorney General, we now know that he canceled the hearing where the conviction was going to be vacated after Michael said, no, I'm not taking conditions to get what I deserve in the justice system.
In August, the solicitor filed his request for a new trial for Michael Pearson. The following week.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Clarendon County. We are here on case number 2011 GS 14-068. This is the state of South Carolina versus Michael Wilson Pearson.
Pearson left prison for this hearing where solicitor Chip Finney, for the first time since the Victor Weldon confession 2.5 years earlier, asked the judge to give Pearson a new trial. Why would it take 2.5 years to do what has finally happened now?
I don't think they ever would have done anything had we not gotten involved. Until we started doing our own investigation and pushing and saying, wait a minute, what about all this evidence? They had to react, and I don't think they would have otherwise.
Part of our investigation was pinpointing exactly when the solicitor knew there was evidence of Pearson's innocence and what he did when he found out. There was no better time to ask than minutes after that August 28th hearing ended.
In March of 2023, I'm not going to talk about the case because I've still got an investigation going on. Okay. And I don't want to talk about it until I have everything sealed tight and ready to go to court. Well, and I'll be ready to talk.
Well, just with respect to when you knew, when did you know?
I don't have any dates in my head like that. I'm not going to answer these off the record questions. If I had my file in front of me, I could maybe answer a question technically.
Well, we know what was just said at the hearing. I mean, this was just minutes ago.
Okay, well, if you heard something, then you can report that, but I didn't say it.
But for 2 years, is it fair to say? Did you know for 2 years?
For the question. I'm not going to answer.
When did you know of Mr. Pearson's innocence?
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Why won't you answer that question? Finney also never proclaimed Michael Pearson's innocence during that hearing. We have to assume That investigator communicated that back to the solicitor.
There's no doubt that at a minimum they knew in March of 2023 that there was credible evidence of Michael Pearson's innocence. If he couldn't remember the timeline, then he's got some intellectual disabilities that need to be addressed, because that was made very clear dozens of times.
See if you recognize anybody.
Remember that third Victor Weldon interview in April 2023? The one where he again confessed and picked out his co-conspirators' faces and lineups. Right there, sitting in the back corner of the room, was solicitor Chip Finney. Can you identify the man in that photograph in the white shirt?
That's the solicitor.
So that is April the 20th of 2023, where he is in an interview room with Victor Weldon, while Weldon is telling these guys again that he was there, he was part of it, Pearson was not.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, he definitely knew.
Muma says the Attorney General's office had plenty of chances to catch this years ago. Instead of figuring out the truth behind Michael Pearson's convictions, Attorney General Alan Wilson and his office fought Pearson every step of the way through his appeals and every post-conviction relief application. So you think the Attorney General of the state of South Carolina could have caught this a decade ago?
I think so, yes. The red flags were there. It's not just bad luck for Michael. It's injustice over and over again, where the justice system was fighting against his innocence.
Well, now, I have a different opinion on that. This is where I think, I've been saying this for a long time. I think attorneys, prosecutors especially, need to be held accountable for their misconduct. And I don't see how it's any different than them trying to perpetrate a fraud on the court when they are coming to the court and, pretending like this person is guilty when they know that they're innocent. That's a complete, that is not what our court system is intended to do, right? It's not what it's supposed to do. You're not supposed to, a prosecutor's job is to find justice. That is their number one thing, job, right? It's not to try someone in a court, in a trial that is innocent, and if you can convict them, then the jury's the one that convicted them. Well, no. They should never be on trial in the first place when they know that they're innocent. Oh, well, we'll just let the jury decide. And they're innocent? Like, no, that's not how this is supposed to be going. It's not how it works. Chip Finney, he serves as the solicitor, the lead prosecutor for the 3rd Judicial Circuit of South Carolina, which covers Clarendon, Lee, Sumter, and Williamsburg counties. He came from a very distinguished legal family. His father, Ernest A. Finney Jr., was a civil rights attorney. There it is. I wondered where that ego and that arrogance came from. I figured it was generational, and I think it is. So he was a spoiled brat. Well, maybe not a spoiled brat. I shouldn't say that. Maybe he wasn't. But he came from, I would say, his ethics and his morals and values. What all of ours do. That's how we all do. All of our morals and values come from whoever raised us. He was a civil rights attorney and later the first African American Chief Justice of the South Carolina Supreme Court. So he was a bigwig. 1931 to 2017. So he just passed away about 5 years ago. 1976, he began serving as a circuit court judge in South Carolina. He was elected. All right. According to media reports, Chip Finney became the first African American solicitor in that circuit when he took office. His stated philosophy: when I'm working with my staff attorneys, I'm always trying to monitor to make sure we feed people from the same spoon of justice, as per WACH television coverage. Like father, like son. Duo makes history. So I think he was more of a history-making solicitor. It says, so a duty, when you examine the broader claim, why weren't lawyers or prosecutors held accountable when innocent men remained imprisoned despite evidence of innocence? Here are the relevant angles relating to someone in Finney's role. Number one, duty to seek justice, not just a conviction. A solicitor's primary ethical obligation is not simply winning cases, but ensuring that the guilty are convicted and the innocent are not wrongfully imprisoned. If new evidence surfaces showing innocence or serious doubts, prosecutors have a duty to revisit the case and act accordingly. If a prosecutor fails to do so or actively resists dismissal despite strong evidence, that raises serious questions of ethical failure. Okay, let's get back to this.
Well, who all these people is down here?
The judge set Pearson free on bond and ordered a new trial in that August hearing.
North Carolina Center on Actual Innocence was my last resort. They saw something in me. They felt something about the case, and they started digging themselves. Something the investigators never did. 15 years later, they're saying that they have the right people. That doesn't replace the 15 years they took from me.
But what did you really lose sitting in the penitentiary?
I lost my life, man. I could have been a productive citizen. I'm trying to be right now, but I could have had already established some things for my life. I could have had my own home. I could have had my own vehicles. God knows I could have had my own business started. Who knows? I had years to think about it. And it was strong the first year. I was wondering what I could do to turn this thing around. What needs to be done to get myself proven innocent.
How do you prove yourself innocent?
You don't. You got to get someone else to prove you're innocent.
In Michael Pearson's case,
Put your initial
beside it.
that someone was Victor Weldon.
I thank him for what he did, but I'm also angry for what he did. He withheld information that would have saved me from going to prison for 15 years.
Pearson also still doesn't believe that was his fingerprint on the back of Slick Gibbons' truck. And if it was, he says there was a plausible explanation. He lived literally around the corner, yards away from Slick's auto parts store.
The man lived a block of, it's a Chinese food connected to the man's store. I eat them. I walk from my house through the cut to go get Chinese food. I ain't paying no attention to the El Camino. I don't pay attention to none of that.
So you could have inadvertently touched.
I could have.
Investigators have never publicly disclosed identifying the people who left those other 4 prints at the crime scene.
They were saying Michael Pearson's thumbprint was found on this car.
He did it.
Yeah, he did this. I don't understand why that machine didn't clear me. I don't know why they make technology and don't want to use their knowledge.
Sumter Police Department's APHIS computer couldn't match Pearson's fingerprint in the nationwide database, but the department's analyst, Marie Hodge, testified she visually inspected the print taken from the El Camino and found 14 points that matched Pearson's right thumbprint.
Which was more accurate, the eye or the machine? If the machine was good enough to put someone in the penitentiary, why is it not good enough to let someone go?
Or keep them out of...
That's right. Why, if it's good enough to put me in prison. It should be good enough to set me free. And see that right there. So the machine, right? Science, technology, the machine couldn't identify his print, but the female print lady, she testified that by her physical eye, she looked at that and she matched it with her eye, even though the computer could not match it. And so that court and that jury and that prosecutor relied on her word that she matched it with her own eye. I think she should be held accountable. You know, those kinds of mistakes cost people their lives. And if you are either negligent or intentional for whatever purpose, whether it be bribe, blackmail, whether it mean you just want to fit in, so you make sure that your coworkers get the outcome that they are wanting, or you're just so bad at your job that you just framed an innocent man and sent him to prison. How could you sleep at night? How could you lay your head down on your pillow in your fancy 4-post bed at night, knowing that you took 15 years of this man's life and the rest of his life? You destroyed his entire life. Even if he does eventually someday find some sense of normalcy for himself, his life is destroyed. He will never get back what he had before they took took his life from him. And this could happen to anybody. So it's really important that we are aware of these kinds of things.
Keep him out of the jailhouse.
They knew 2+ years ago you didn't do this.
Right.
They even had the polygraph that showed you were telling the truth.
Right.
That Victor Weldon was telling the truth. Why did you serve another 2+ years?
That's a good question.
And Pearson doesn't think he'll ever forgive the solicitor or the system.
Chip Finney wasn't trying to help me get out of the penitentiary. A solicitor is supposed to help an innocent man, but he didn't try releasing me. He was trying to sweep me under the rug. When we was at court, he still didn't want to confess my innocence. With all the evidence mounted up against him, not against me, that he did wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. I spent 15 years of my life in the penitentiary, and I was wrong. And he will not confess to my innocence. He will not say that Michael Pearson did not do this.
On September 8th, 2025, the solicitor formally ended the prosecution of Michael Pearson. Without any public notice, Finney dismissed every charge, citing new evidence discovered. Nowhere does the solicitor mention that Michael Pearson was actually innocent.
With the attitude he has with the job, he doesn't like mistakes. And if he make a mistake, he like to cover it up.
You think he tried to cover this up?
Yes, he did.
Are you finding a system where people can't admit mistakes, and then when mistakes are found, they do everything in their power to not fix it?
In every case, and I can tell you that in the 25 years I've been doing this, it's gotten worse.
Does any of this meet the threshold of prosecutorial misconduct?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you're talking about a violation of the written rules of professional responsibility in South Carolina, a clear violation, that is absolutely prosecutorial misconduct. Chip Finney took that last effort to save himself, not Michael Pearson.
If not for your center, where would Michael Pearson be today?
He would be in prison today.
What do you think the state of South Carolina should do with Solicitor Chip Finney?
I think he should be disbarred at a minimum. I think he should not be allowed to practice law in the state of South Carolina or anywhere else.
If you could sit down with Chip Finney today, what would you say to him?
I would want to know, how does he feel right now about the situation? I really want to know, do he have any remorse?
What do you think he feels?
I don't think he has any remorse.
What do you want people to remember about Michael Pearson?
that he was a fighter. He never quit. I'm a good person. I'm not the person that you thought I was.
Solicitor Chip Finney told me he expects to file new charges in the Slick Gibbons ambush. However, the solicitor has not yet charged any of the people Victor Weldon named in his confession. Kevin Millett, Leonard Smith, or whoever the man called Peanut is. Millett is already in prison on a gun and drug conviction, and Leonard Smith never responded to my attempts to reach him. I have confirmed through multiple sources a high-ranking court official filed a complaint against Solicitor Chip Finney with the South Carolina Supreme Court's Office of Disciplinary Counsel, the unit charged with investigating lawyers and judges. The Supreme Court would not confirm whether a complaint was filed or if the court opened an investigation. That's something state law keeps secret unless and until an allegation is sustained and the court hands down punishment. If nothing ever comes of the court's investigation, the complaint and investigation will remain secret forever. Questions he didn't want us asked. The court's investigation, the complaint and investigation will remain secret forever. Our investigation is not over.
They had me scheduled to get out of prison 2043.
We uncovered another case where someone did not get a fair shot in the system, and the Attorney General's office fought to keep them imprisoned. Do you guys mind if I ask him a question real quick? We go deep into South Carolina to track the Attorney General down to ask questions he didn't want us asking.
No, they sure don't. They don't want people asking any kinds of questions. We're going to finish that. I just wanted to read a couple more things here. So, competence and systemic oversight. Handling wrongful conviction risk demands resources. Re-examination of evidence, openness to defense motions, transparency. If the solicitor's office lacks the policy, manpower, or willingness to act when innocence is shown, the issue is partly one of competence and partly one of culture. Now, we live in Kentucky here, so Kentucky is different. We are a Commonwealth state. I don't know about South Carolina, and they kind of have different words. Like they call their prosecutors solicitors. Ours are just called prosecutors. You have county prosecutor, a county attorney who handles the misdemeanor cases, and then you have the Commonwealth attorney, which would be Butler. He handles the felonies, felony criminal cases. South Carolina, I'm not really familiar with, so I'm not really sure how. I don't think it's really much different. Do any of you all know? Excuse me. I don't think it's much different. I think it's just the words that they use is different. Let's see. If in the case you're investigating, men, Bella, come on, down. Men exonerated after appeals. If Finney's office or an AG's office collaborating with the solicitor resisted freeing someone despite mounting evidence, that signals a complete breakdown in the system. Prosecutors and solicitors often have career incentives to appear tough on crime. If you remember back in the 80s, it was Ronald Reagan. Y'all remember Reagan? And you remember the war on drugs? That war on drugs put a whole lot of people in prison. There was actually a big I don't really even know what word to use to describe it, but it was a big thing on snow cane. So you had powder that white people were mainly using snow cane, and then you had in the cities and stuff, you had the crack snow cane, the hard stuff that a lot of the African American community was submerged in. It was a lot like the opioid crisis here in Appalachia, really. Well, no, not really, but yeah, Miss Colleen, you're right. There was a 3-strike rule. I don't know if they've taken that away or not. Do you? Is that 3-strike rule even still a thing? I know it used. I thought I remembered, or I'm feeling like I remember hearing they did away with that. Maybe in some states. Is the 3-strike? Let me see. Rule still in effect in. Not uniformly applied across all states. The 3-strike rule. It is not. The 3-strike rule is not uniformly applied across all states. My dog's in there. Hey, Bella, come on, man. Hang on a second. Quick. Jeez. Okay. While many states have enacted some version of this law, which imposes harsher sentences on repeat offenders, others have opted out or modified it. I thought so. Some states have chosen to allow greater judicial discretion, focusing on rehabilitation rather than mandatory life sentences. For example, California has undergone significant reforms such as Proposition 184 and Proposition 36, which now require that the 3rd strike be a serious or violent felony to trigger a mandatory life sentence. So used to, if you had 3 felonies, they'd send you a life sentence. And the snow cane, let me pull this up and I'll tell you about it too. Yes. Okay. Let me see what it says for this. Okay, so the CRACK versus powder snow cane sentencing divide from the 1980s to the 2000s. The backdrop. The war on drugs. In the 1980s, the Reagan administration launched the so-called war on drugs. Crack snow cane had just exploded in poor, mostly black urban neighborhoods, while powder snow cane remained more common among wealthier, mostly white users. The media and politicians portrayed crack as a violent epidemic destroying inner city communities. which it was at the time. If you've ever seen a lot of the news stories, like people were dying in unbelievable numbers. It's just unbelievable how many people were being murdered at that time. It was crazy. See, that public fear led to some of the harshest drug laws in American history. This is where the laws came in, and we started seeing mass incarceration, and it was really, really unfair. The kind of sentences, like people were going to prison for the rest of their lives for drugs. Let's see, laws that punished the same chemical substance differently depending on its form and who was using it. The 100-to-1 sentencing ratio. In 1986, Congress passed the Anti-Drug Abuse Act, creating a 100-to-1 disparity between crack and powder snow cane offenses. 5 grams of crack snow cane, about the size of 2 sugar packets, triggered the same 5-year mandatory minimum sentence as 500 grams of powder cocaine, over a pound. So 5 grams of it in hardened form versus 500 grams in powder form. I was shocked to learn this. This was a huge part of my education, like in my academic education. This was a big, big part of it. That meant a person caught with a handful of crack rocks in a poor black neighborhood could serve the same time as someone caught with a brick of powder snow cane in a wealthy suburb. The racial impact. By the early 1990s, over 80% of people convicted of federal crack offenses were black, even though most snow cane users were white. 80%. That's just astounding. The law fueled mass incarceration, completely, just unbelievably created. I think this was the creation of mass incarceration, and then they started to privatize it. The 80s, this war on drugs was really when in my opinion, was really when we started to see the financial, I guess, maybe, what word am I trying to think of? I guess that's when we started seeing the money. I don't really know how I'm wanting to say it, but we started to see how, like, how now we have all these doctors and our courts are saying, there's a whole lot of money. There's a whole lot of federal money in substance abuse. Well, they started finding that there was a whole lot of money in corrections. And so I think that's when we started to see more prisons get privatized. So now they hire independent contractors to come in and work those prisons. And a lot of times they don't have to be trained or certified the same way that maybe a government-run facility would be. That's a really good thing for us to do is kind of dig in and see the difference between the private corrections facilities versus the government run ones. The law-fueled mass incarceration broke up families and devastated communities of color for generations. Meanwhile, powder snow cane defendants, often white or from higher socioeconomic backgrounds, got probation, much shorter sentences, and treatment options. This became one of the clearest examples of systemic racism built into sentencing policy. In 2010, the Fair Sentencing Act reduced the ratio from 100 to 1 to 18 to 1, acknowledging the injustice but not eliminating it. In 2018, the First Step Act made those reforms retroactive, allowing some prisoners to seek reduced sentences. In 2023 and 24, the Equal Act, EQUAL, of 2023, that has been introduced to finally make the ratio 1 to 1, treating crack and powder the same, though it still hasn't passed Congress. So back in the 80s, America didn't fight drugs. It fought neighborhoods, is exactly what it did. If you were rich and white with powder snow cane, they called it a bad habit. If you were poor and black with crack snow cane, they called it a war. That 100 to 1 law didn't just lock people up. It locked up whole generations, destroyed families. And 40 years later, we're still cleaning up the mess of politicians who cared more about the headlines than human lives. That's where we're at.
Driver pulled up to the Coward Community Center. I tried to question him on his way in. How you doing, Mr. Wilson?
Hey, Jody.
Hey,
Good to see you.
can you tell us why you and your office fought against Mr. Pearson's innocence in State versus Michael Pearson?
Please look on his face.
But the AG didn't slow down as he scurried into the PD Republican women's event to deliver a speech and take questions.
Now I want the opportunity to be the leader of our executive branch of government as your governor.
He spoke to a group of 20 people he wanted something from, their votes to make him governor. Wilson later took questions from the audience. Do you guys mind if I ask him a question real quick? And the crowd gave us permission to ask Wilson about Michael Pearson's case. Why, even when the appeals court reversed Pearson's conviction, finding the fingerprint evidence tying him to the Slick Gibbons ambush was insufficient evidence to submit to the jury and merely raised a suspicion of Pearson's guilt, the AG's office fought to uphold the conviction and asked the Supreme Court to deny Pearson a new trial and reinstate his 60-year prison sentence. The court agreed, and Pearson continued serving his sentence.
Pearson ain't had nothing to do with this. He's an innocent man sitting in jail right now, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Pearson was freed in August 2025, 2.5 years after that Victor Weldon confession. A confession Pearson's innocence attorney says the AG could have uncovered during Pearson's first appeal. So you think the Attorney General of the state of South Carolina could have caught this a decade ago?
I think so, yes. The red flags were there.
Mr. Wilson, there was in the next county over 2 months ago, there was a man who was wrongfully convicted and freed from prison. Every step of his appellate, every step, all of his appeals, even up to the Supreme Court, you and your office fought against this man's innocence. Why is that? And that's the case of Michael Pearson.
So, Jody, the way you ask the question, you ask it laced with assertions and innuendo and accusations, and that's not the way a reporter should ask a question. But what I will answer let me answer your question. I have 90 lawyers working in my office. I have between 340 and 350 employees. We manage 8,000 cases over a 15-year period. I cannot speak to the facts of every specific case. So if you want to know about a specific case, then we can put the lawyers who are handling the case there. What I can tell you is, by law, our office is required to defend the state under post-conviction relief as well as appellate law. So somebody has to defend the state's prosecution. I cannot speak to the facts of this assertion that you baked into your question.
But the evidence does not support the AG's ignorance. Alan Wilson's office knew of Pearson's innocence claim in 2024, 14 months before he was freed from prison. Remember Victor Weldon?
So was Pearson there?
No.
He confessed to the solicitor's office in March 2023.
I'll see you at night.
In July 2023, the solicitor's investigator called Michael Pearson in from prison and told him about Weldon's confession.
The man telling you the truth. I ain't had nothing to do with that. I done did 15 years of my life.
In June 2024, a year after that confession, Michael Pearson filed this post-conviction relief application with the Attorney General's office. He told the AG he was in prison unlawfully because of newly discovered evidence, that evidence being the Victor Weldon confession. Clarendon County's clerk sent the PCR application to the AG on June 8, 2024. The clerk's office shows 14 months passed, and the AG's office did not file a single document to get Pearson's PCR case in front of a judge for an evidentiary hearing. That happened only after North Carolina Center on Actual Innocence attorneys Chris Muma and James Babb took Pearson's case over.
What kind of statement does that make, that the Attorney General's office is so committed to upholding this conviction that they're going to throw law enforcement under the bus? It's interesting how there's this back and forth, the solicitor saying, you fix it, to the AG's office saying, no, you fix it. You're the one that got the evidence. In the meantime, Michael Pearson's still sitting in prison. Where is the person who says, we got to fix this? We got to fix it now.
Muma says Wilson and his office had an ethical duty to act immediately, not 14 months later. Muma points to South Carolina Court Rule 3.8 G and H, requiring a prosecutor to make reasonable efforts to promptly disclose credible material evidence that a convicted man did not commit a crime, and when a prosecutor knows of clear and convincing evidence of a person's innocence, the prosecutor shall make reasonable efforts to seek to remedy the conviction. In a July 2025 letter to the AG, Solicitor Chip Finney claimed his office spent months trying to investigate Mr. Pearson's involvement in the Slick Gibbons ambush. Finney denied he did anything in the past 2.5 years to delay or impede correcting Pearson's conviction, and his office always followed the facts and acted upon them as the law requires. And through it all, Michael Pearson continued sitting in prison. Even if the conviction is later found out it was wrongful and improper?
Well, again, I can't speak to the specifics of the case, only to say that there's thousands and thousands and thousands of cases, but I don't know the facts of every single case. So there have been times that we have defended cases all the way through the appellate process, and because a case gets turned over, doesn't necessarily mean the person was innocent. It just means that there was some flaw in the legal system.
But the AG had plenty of time to educate himself about the Michael Pearson case before we tracked him down here. Not only was news of Pearson's vacated conviction plastered on nearly every news outlet across the Carolinas, Wilson's own office filed motions in Pearson's case with the state Supreme Court just 2 months ago. Wilson's name, along with his top officials, is on the bottom of the filing. The AG also had the benefit of my email 3 weeks earlier, asking him and his press secretary, Robert Kittle, to schedule an interview. I told him exactly what we wanted to talk about: the state versus Michael Wilson Pearson and state versus Oscar Fortune. I even included more detail. Our investigation concerns appeals and PCR applications where the AG's office under Alan Wilson successfully fought to uphold the convictions against these two defendants. Convictions that were later vacated over prosecutorial misconduct in the Fortune case and a wrongful conviction in the Pearson case. A week later, Kittle refused our interview request. The Attorney General will not be doing any interviews with you after your unprofessional behavior the last time he talked to you. He showed up at your station to do an interview with another reporter, and you could have asked for 5 or 10 minutes to talk to him while he was there. But instead, you waited for him outside in the parking lot just so you could run up to him with a camera to make it look like you were chasing him down for dramatic effect. One thing's true, we did conduct that interview the AG didn't want to schedule right in our parking lot in June. Mr. Wilson? How are you? This happened a month after we filed a formal request asking Wilson to schedule time with us. We wanted him to explain to the public why his office dismissed every charge filed in 2 of our investigations out of Marlboro County: final disrespects and lost trust.
Me and Tammy got 4 packs of cigarettes out of it, so we figured he didn't need them no more.
In final disrespects, a dead man's family accused the then deputy probate judge and her friends of stealing from a dead man and his dementia-ridden wife within hours of his death. 2 years after our investigation aired, the state charged Deputy Probate Judge Tammy Bullock and Charlotte Green with grand larceny. Bullock also faced a weapons charge from a separate case. That weapons indictment was hand-signed by Attorney General Alan Wilson. Wilson's office eventually dropped every charge in the theft case, including Bullock's weapons charge. Those records were later removed from the Marlboro County Courthouse and destroyed.
Get up, get in the cell, Darrell. To get in there, pop two, pop two, pop two, pop two, pop two.
In our lost trust investigation, we uncovered this video recording from May 2020. It showed former Sheriff Charles Lemon ordering former Deputy Andrew Cook to shock an inmate multiple times with a taser inside the county jail. The video led to the state attorney general indictments of Lemon and Cook, each on a felony assault charge and misconduct in office. The governor suspended Lemon from office. Years later, the feds filed a civil rights charge against Lemon and Cook, and Wilson's office dropped the state-level assault and misconduct in office charges. Wilson's office refused an interview to explain why the AG abandoned the state prosecutions.
Now, see, that's how I think we are looking at with all this corruption here in Letcher County. You don't have Andy Beshear in our governor's office doing anything to find out anything here in Letcher County. You don't. But you know what I found interesting was that there's a case in Tennessee that we're getting ready to look at this week. We're going to look at it. This woman's daughter died, and she has been fighting the sheriff's department in Coffee County in Tennessee. And I mean, it's a huge, huge thing playing out on social media. And so we're going to be looking at that case. But one of the things that the mother came out and said, like yesterday or the day before, was that Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear even offered her his help in getting justice for her and her daughter. What? So Andy Beshear is going down offering assistance in a case of corruption in Coffee County, Tennessee, when we have all the stuff that's going on here in Letcher County, and he hasn't decided to show up and show his face, not the first time, about any of this stuff. And our Attorney General's office has made such a mess of all of these interviews. Blows me away, man.
Cook, can we talk to you before you head out?
No, thank you. I'm fine. Thank you, though.
Deputy Cook later pleaded guilty to his civil rights charge.
I just heard not guilty.
And Lemon was acquitted during his federal trial in August 2024. Wilson's refusal to talk about his handling of these cases is the real reason why we were forced into this unscheduled interview in June.
I can't talk specifically to the facts of those cases because I'm not familiar with them, but everything our office told you that we legally can tell you, we have told you legally. I hope you have a good day.
Why can't you tell the people of South Carolina why you chose to do this?
Jody, as again, we gave you an answer. The answer was there's things we can legally say, things we can't legally say. I'm not privy to the specific facts of that case. Have a good day.
How about this? The victims in the Hollis Slade case say that you... And now let's go back to Coward and our questions about Michael Pearson's appeals.
I was getting ready to ask, is he a Republican or a Democrat? Now, we don't do party politics on this show, okay? I was just curious. I was just curious. What is he? But I think he's a Republican.
We're airing this exchange unedited.
Which doesn't
But at the end
mean
of the day, you're asserting that I would be against someone going after someone wrongfully to prosecute them when I knew them to be innocent. That's what you're asserting in your question.
Well, the question is about during the appellate process, does your office have any responsibility to investigate the claims made against the state?
We can't go outside the record, Jody, by law. We only the record in the circuit court.
So you don't have any responsibility to investigate, but you do just solely uphold the conviction.
I think I've answered your question. On appeal, we have the record that was created in the circuit court. That is the record that we have. Now, as to the specifics of this case, I can't speak to it because I wasn't the attorney of record on this case. There are thousands of, you can fuss at me all you want, you can disagree with the decisions of the office. There are thousands and thousands of cases that our office does all year long.
But I emailed you all about this weeks ago.
Well, Jody.
And you wouldn't schedule an interview, so we had to come down here.
Jody.
I'm what?
You're rude.
Okay.
All right.
And the interview ended.
Yes, ma'am.
Wilson's driver asked the 3 officers, 2 were local police chiefs, to keep us away from the AG. Before Wilson arrived, those officers were welcoming to us and praised our investigative work. At the end, they tried to block me from asking Wilson anything else. You just answer my emails.
He can. As long as you don't get close. No, you're fine. He's not going to hurt me.
Why don't you just answer the emails, man? Let's do this the right way. Wilson got into his Tahoe and left town. But let's back up. Wilson said something that caught my attention right before his driver, who he called Addison, tried to shout us down.
We can't go outside the record, Jody, by law. We only the record in the circuit court.
The record. That reminded me of another appellate case we investigated, the state versus Oscar Fortune.
Do you remember the day that you were sitting in prison and you found, wait a minute, here is this moment in this trial. Here is the error my prosecutor made.
I remember it, but I also remember the Attorney General saying, you can't raise that issue. That's not a PCR issue. That's a direct appeal issue. You were supposed to do that on your direct appeal. I'm telling them, no, that's a constitutional violation. So now here it is, you got me uneducated, in prison, convicted of murder, telling them, educated, working for the Attorney General, that you're wrong. You have people who have raised these issues in the past, and you told them the same thing, and they believed it. But now I know what the Constitution is. Now I know what a constitutional violation is. So you can't tell me I'm wrong.
Turns out you were right.
100% right. So says the Supreme Court of South Carolina.
Fortune was convicted of murder in Chesterfield County in 2006. He spent 13 years in a state prison, fighting Attorney General Alan Wilson's office for a new trial. The AG's office fought Fortune to uphold his conviction and his 37-year sentence. Although right there in the record was something the state Supreme Court called absolutely inexcusable prosecutorial misconduct, something the court found Wilson's office tried to justify in the AG's fight to keep Oscar Fortune imprisoned. Objection continues after this. Oscar Fortune crawled out of bed and rolled into the Huddle House parking lot in Sherrall to meet his cousin.
She told me she had been in an incident at the Green Villa in which Anthony Shields hit her in the face with a bottle. So I asked her where she was at. She told me the Huddle House.
The plan was to meet here, then go to the Sherrall Police Department to get a warrant on Anthony Shields.
What was your mindset when you left to go to that Huddle House?
Just to assist her. She said she wanted to go to the police department, so she didn't feel comfortable going there alone, and she wanted me to assist her. Being the big brother, if you want to say, she's my family. I love her. You know, I'm going to assist her.
When you got to the Huddle House, something changed.
A lot changed. There are 80 to 100 people that I don't know because I'm not from Chirraw. I'm actually from Bennettsville. That changes within itself.
Minutes later, Shields pulled up. Fortune's cousin walked over to Shields' car window, and the two started arguing.
I'm not going to sit here and say that I wasn't expecting to fight him because I'm from the South. And the way we, grow up, if a man put his hand on your sister, then you and that man have to, see each other. So that's what I was planning to do. We were going to discuss what happened and go from there.
Fortune says he got a .38 from the console, slipped it into his pocket, and walked over to Shields' car.
When I get to the car, I asked him, what's up with, hitting Sante in the face with a bottle? And he looked at me. We don't know each other. I've never seen him a day in my life. He looked at me, and then he fired a weapon. The next thing I know, I see a flash and hear a bang.
You didn't see him pull the gun up?
No, he had to already have that gun in his hand. When he fired the gun, it caught me off guard. And I remember I closed my eyes for a quick second, and when I opened my eyes and looked, Sante was on the ground. I fired back up on him because I felt like he had just shot Sante, and I know I have a right to protect myself as well as protect her. So I fired back. I chose to defend myself.
Investigators found 5 rounds in Shields' body. He died in the parking lot. The nearest sheriff's deputy was on the farthest end of the county. It took him 30 minutes to get there to secure the crime scene. While Shields lay dead on the ground, someone grabbed his pistol from the inside of his car and took off with it. When investigators got to the scene, they didn't know Shields had a gun and only found evidence of one gun fired, and the man who fired it was long gone.
Were you running because you felt you'd done something wrong?
No, not at all. I was running, and now I'm gonna stop. I wasn't running. I left because I wanted to get out of that situation. And I left because I needed to gather my thoughts and digest what just happened. It's not like this is an everyday event.
The next morning, Fortune surrendered and handed over his .38, with the shell casing still inside the chamber, to the Sherrall Police Department.
Damian Antoine Shields.
A department where Anthony Shields' brother worked as a police officer. Shields is now an investigator with the Chesterfield County Sheriff's Office. Fortune says he explained his self-defense story, but says with Anthony Shields' gun missing from the scene, no one believed him that Shields even had a gun on him.
And I'm 32 years old at the time, not familiar with the justice system, not familiar with, the police or anything like that. So after I told them what happened, they still charged me with murder and took me to jail.
Days later, investigators found the gun and the man who took it. But that man who took a critical piece of evidence from the crime scene was never charged.
This is the only incident that I've ever had, that I've ever been in. 4 years and some months, I'm out on bond. And then March of 2006, I go to trial.
The state spent a week working to convince a jury that Oscar Fortune, with malice and aforethought, murdered Anthony Shields. Fortune took the stand and admitted he shot Shields, but that he did so in self-defense. In closing arguments, Assistant Solicitor J.R. Joyner told the jury, "My job is to show the truth. Their job is to shroud the truth. Their job is to confuse jurors. Their job is to do whatever they have to, without regard for the truth, to get a not guilty verdict. And that whatever a prosecutor believes about a defendant's guilt mattered the most. If I know the person has done something that I think the facts show they're guilty of, then I cannot dismiss it. I have to go forward with it." Those comments would later come back to haunt both J.R. Joyner and the state of South Carolina.
If I had to liken it to anything, it's almost like a unarmed gladiator walking into the Coliseum. You know it's over. You know you're not walking out of there.
Fortune was right. The jury convicted the 37-year-old of murder, and Judge John Milling sentenced him to 37 years in prison. Over the next 15 years, Oscar Fortune hit the law books and filed appeals with the state appeals court. The Attorney General's office fought to defend the conviction, and the appeals court denied Fortune's appeal.
What's his probation status?
Fortune then filed his post-conviction relief application before Judge Paul Birch. He claimed he didn't get a fair trial for 2 reasons. One, Solicitor J.R. Joyner committed prosecutorial misconduct in its closing argument to the jury, and that Fortune's own defense attorney failed him at trial.
He said it never crossed his mind to bring up an allegation of prosecutorial misconduct on J.R. Joyner. He's a good guy.
Do good guys not make mistakes?
You want the politically correct answer, or you want the answer?
Oscar, I want the truth.
He's saying, I'm not going to make an allegation against this lawyer for you. You've been convicted, you've been sentenced, I was your lawyer, that's over with. I'm not gonna put dirt on his name.
Despite Fortune's evidence, Birch denied his PCR application, finding although Joyner's comments to the jury were improper, it did not hurt Fortune's right to a fair trial.
So now you have a judge saying, I'm wrong. That will probably be enough for a man to just give up. I know that this is a violation because I've seen cases overturned for less than what this guy did, J.R. Joyner.
Eventually somebody heard you.
Right, the Supreme Court.
He had one last chance for a new trial. Fortune was 12 years into his prison sentence and continued fighting for that new trial. In January 2018, he filed a petition with the state Supreme Court, asking the court to give him one last chance to undo the appeals court and Judge Birch's denial of his appeals. There again, despite the evidence in the record, the Attorney General's office fought Oscar Fortune to uphold his conviction. 2 more years would pass. Oscar Fortune was in the prison law library when a prison staff.
But yet these people come around and ask us for our votes. So whenever it comes time for us to vote, which it's all next year, we still got like a year. Well, I think primary will be in May. And then you've got the general in November. We'll do just like a breakdown on the people who are actually running. I don't care what the letter is that they have in front of their name. I don't care about that because I think they're all in the same boat. My opinion, if they're a politician, it doesn't matter. I think they're all just as bad as the next. I don't know a good one, personally. That's just my opinion.
Staffer called him into her office.
She asked, could I see you for a minute? So I go to her office, she closes the door, and she pulls up my case. And there it was, reversed and remanded for a new trial.
The Supreme Court's ruling was unanimous and offered a rebuke of not only the Attorney General's office, but of J.R. Joyner, trial judge John Milling, and PCR judge Paul Birch. The PCR court found the remarks were improper. We find they were absolutely inexcusable, Justice John Few wrote about Birch's ruling. The court has condemned this type of misconduct, and trial judge John Milling's curative instruction actually exacerbated the assistant solicitor's misconduct. The assistant solicitor's improper statements to the jury during closing argument infected Fortune's trial with such a high degree of unfairness as to make his conviction a denial of due process. We reversed the order of the PCR court denying Fortune relief and remand to the Court of General Sessions for a new trial. The Supreme Court also found no overwhelming evidence that Fortune murdered Anthony Shields, and the state pointed to no element that Fortune was not acting in self-defense. Somehow, everyone at every step of the way missed all of this. But Fortune says he doesn't resent the man who prosecuted him.
Do you blame J.R. Joyner for your trip to the penitentiary?
I think J.R. Joyner was just one ingredient in a perfect storm. I'm going to thank J.R. Joyner for the mistake he made, because that mistake got me out of prison.
Although he was a free man, Oscar Fortune's troubles were far from over.
And Oscar Fortune keeps fighting. That was it for Anthony Shields. And it did not have to be that way.
In October 2022, the state gave Oscar Fortune that new trial he fought 16 years for. New prosecutors tried once again to convict him of murder.
There were so many other ways to address any problem. Go to the police. Walk away.
Prosecutors again told the jury what Oscar Fortune did wasn't in self-defense or anything less than murder.
So I ask you, when you look at all this evidence, that you come back and find Oscar Fortune guilty of murder.
After a week-long trial, the Chesterfield County jury started deliberating Oscar Fortune's fate. But just like in his 2006 trial, he couldn't get a fair trial. Less than 2 hours in,
And we have people on our jury who have considered the defendant guilty since Monday. Is this a legal issue? The juror that wrote this, and I asked him, was there a juror or jurors who did not presume the defendant to be innocent? And his words were, and correct me if I'm wrong, he said that from his own mouth, that I knew he was innocent or guilty since Monday. And that really ticks me off.
the judge declared a mistrial. That meant Oscar Fortune and the Shields family would have to do this all over again. But Fortune and the prosecutor saved everyone the trouble.
All rise.
Prosecutor John Jeppertinger was ready to deal and offered Fortune a plea deal.
Your Honor, he's pleading to the lesser offense of voluntary manslaughter, which is both a violent and most serious offense. There's a negotiated sentence, Your Honor, of 30 years, suspended to 5,456 days. He's already done the 5,456 days, Judge, and thereafter be placed on probation for 5 years.
Fortune entered an Alford plea where he maintains his innocence.
It's been your decision to plead guilty? Yes, Your Honor.
But acknowledges the state could have enough to convict him if the state continues putting him on trial. In 2 separate trials and fights with the Attorney General's office all along the way, Oscar Fortune beat the state's murder charge. On November 17, 2022, Oscar James Fortune walked out of court a free man. His probation ends in 2027.
I will tell Robert to answer your emails.
No, I mean to schedule an interview with me.
Well, I'm not the attorney of record.
Yeah, but you're the AG. What does the AG think about Oscar Fortune's trial? Well, we don't know. He wouldn't talk to us about it.
I'm not running from you. I got to go somewhere else, but I'm happy to answer you.
Okay.
I will never look at that guy. First impression, man. First impression. I know what I think about that guy. Okay, that AG. All right. So before we close tonight, y'all, let me go ahead and get that out of there. I want to just slow this down and talk plain for just a minute. A lot of folks watching may not realize that in America today, not all prisons are run by the government. Let me put this over here where I can read it, where I can see it better. Okay. Not all prisons are run by the government. Many of them, including some right here in the South, which I don't know, Kentucky's really in the South, but they're private, meaning that they're run by corporations that sign contracts with the state or the federal government to house inmates for a set price per head per day. And that right there changes everything. Because when a prison becomes a business, freedom becomes a commodity. Every bed filled equals money earned. It's the same thing with rehab and treatment. Every person released means profit lost. Yeah. So the goal stops being rehabilitation. It becomes retention. These rehabs, well, if they could just put us on this medicine, like Suboxone, you know, some people don't like Suboxone, but some of us need it, you know. But we don't need to go to a 30-day treatment facility and so they can charge your insurance $30,000. 30 grand for every single person that you're sending there. Yeah, well, if you're court ordered, if they're all being court ordered, it ends up being a lot of money, and that money adds up. The longer you stay, the more they make. Think about it. In small rural counties where jobs are scarce, these private prisons roll in promising employment and local tax dollars. They become the biggest employer in town. Just look at ARC in Louisa. They ended up being the biggest employer. They're probably the biggest in the state at one time for rehab, because they went from being one sober living house to being the biggest in the state. Like, they had more sober living houses in the state than anybody did. So suddenly, it's not just about justice, it's about economics. The more inmates, the more jobs. The more contracts, the more local revenue. It's a modern day company store, except instead of coal or steel, the product is people. Human trafficking. These facilities aren't held to the same transparency standards as state prisons either. Reporters can't get inside as easily. Families can't get answers, and the public cannot see how taxpayer dollars are really being spent. Medical neglect, understaffed security, unsanitary conditions, those don't make the brochures, people. And yet, the same men and women who work in these prisons are often underpaid, undertrained, and dealing with trauma of their own. Private prisons don't just exploit the incarcerated. They exploit the workforce too. So we end up with communities depending on pain for their paychecks, and a system that quietly grows behind razor wire while the rest of the world just looks away. And here's where it gets even darker. The same lawmakers who pass harsher sentencing laws often take campaign donations from these private prison companies. They're literally incentivized to keep prisons full, because full prisons mean political favor and profit. That's not justice. That's business in a devil's disguise. And when you start to connect all the dots, the wrongful convictions, the overloaded courts, the cheap plea deals, the juvenile pipelines, the reentry failures, it all traces back to one simple truth. This system was never designed to heal. It was designed to sustain itself. From the man in the cell to the woman counting his commissary receipts, everyone becomes a cog in that same broken wheel. But here's the hope, because I always try to leave you with some. The more we learn, the less we can be manipulated. The more we speak, the less we can be silenced. The more we see, the less we can be sold. You don't have to be a lawyer or a politician to understand corruption when you see it. You just have to care enough to call it what it is. So tonight, if you learned something new, share it. Tell your kids, your coworkers, your church group. Talk about how prisons make money, how private contracts shape sentences, and how reform isn't about being soft on crime. It's about being strong on truth. Because justice isn't supposed to come with a price tag. Proverbs 29:4 says, by justice, a king gives a country stability. But those who are greedy for bribes tear it down. And that's exactly what greed has done to our justice system. Torn it down from the inside out. But we can build it back, one truth at a time. So until next time, keep your eyes open, your heart steady, and your spirit unshaken. Because the truth ain't free, y'all. But it is worth fighting for, don't you think? Okay. All right. Pull that off of there. And go back to these comments, and we're gonna close for tonight. Cipher. Let's see, I don't even know where to go back to the comments at. I think there we go. These AGs need to be held accountable for their misconduct. I think all of them do. The AG's offices, the detective, prosecutors, assistant prosecutors. I think they all should be held accountable, but I don't think we'll see any of that. I just don't. I don't think anybody's going to come in here and do anything. The only way that any of this will change, in my opinion, is to vote new people in. We have to vote these people out and put new people in. Oh, Linda. Yeah, you get out of one of those prisons. It's not run by the government. Money on the corporations, daily, loss, big time money. Every day a bed is empty. Yep. They just want it filled because it's money, 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 money. It's all about money. All right, guys, we're going to end up closing this. Thank you, Cindy Lou Woot. Love you, love you, love you, love you. Thank you all for being here always, every night. Tomorrow, I don't know what our show's on tomorrow. I have no idea. They become the biggest census block in the state. It's about voter suppression. I agree. Voting to me is like looking up a hog's hind end until how much lard he'll give. Well, so many times, we go to vote and it pulls up your ballot and you've got a whole bunch of names on there that I can tell you most people don't know anything about any of them. The only thing that I think most people know is who the incumbent was. So, and how often they usually get back in there just because they were already in there. So, anyway. All right. Thank you, Lord, for another day, being able to come together in your name. Jesus, we are so thankful just for your presence today, Lord. I love you, Jesus. I pray that you forgive me for my sins. I pray that you'll just show us the way. Keep your light at our feet so we do not stumble. Keep us on that narrow path, Lord. I pray that you will just heal those broken places within our hearts and within our souls, Lord. I love you, Jesus. I love you. I pray. I don't really have the words tonight, Lord, so I pray that the Holy Ghost prays for me this evening. Every single one of us have a need tonight, Lord, and you know all about each one of them. So I pray that you touch us according to that need, those needs. Give us protection. Give us guidance, wisdom, knowledge, love, peace that passes all understanding. All the fruits of the Spirit, Lord. All the blessings of God. We praise you, Jesus. I pray that you go with us and bring us back safe tomorrow. Until then, we give you all praise, honor, and glory. In Jesus' name, in Jesus' name. All right, guys. Well, you have a great rest of your night. We will see you tomorrow. Miss Colleen says, look up a book called The Kallikak Family by Henry Herbert Goddard. It tells about how Appalachian people have been targeted for many years. Thank you. Let me write that down real quick. The Kallikak Family by Henry Herbert Goddard. All right. All right. Thank you. I will look that up. Region has been targeted for decades in all different ways, in so many different ways. It has. All right, guys. You have a great rest of your night. I love you. Peace out, girl. Scout.
From hillbilly crime, you can't hide from hillbilly crime.
You may not know that there's a crew in town. The head hillbillies are making their rounds. Small town whispers loud and clear. The sheriff shot the judge in his chambers chair.
Sheriff got a secret he won't keep. Judge shot dead in his disbelief. A lot of people have some stories to tell. Dog passed away, get the sound of a shotgun shell.
All the secrets belong down. Voices loud in this old town. From the courthouse to the ground. Rumors fly and they can't be bound.
Neighbors hide behind their blinds. Whisper tales of troubled minds. Skeletons covering the mountainside. A treacherous reality in the pines.
Winter reveals the hidden lies. Moonlight couldn't mask the cries. Shadows caught in sunlit skies. There's no cover, no disguise. All the